Chad Gable has confirmed that he is indeed staying with WWE. This in a recent interview with the Gorilla Position, where he was point blank asked about his status with the company, and he confirmed that he's staying around. We're going to tell you exactly what Chad Gable had to say. We're also going to talk about what it means for AEW, who were reportedly at least interested in signing Gable along with other WWE free agents. And we have some news about a former All Elite Wrestling World Champion who is set to make his in-ring return fairly soon. All that, much more coming up right here in this video. So be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. All right. One of the biggest stories in wrestling free agency has been that of Chad Gable. There was talk about him potentially signing a short-term extension to stick around with the company a little bit longer and finish out a feud when we heard that his contract was indeed up a couple of weeks ago. And ever since then, there have been rumblings that, maybe his contract has actually been extended. Maybe he has signed a long-term deal. So what's going on? Well, boys over at Gorilla Position did a fantastic interview with Gable leading up to Clash at the Castle, and they point blank asked him, and here's what he had to say.
So, yeah, just on that. So you speaking to the boss, and I guess those words resonate with you.
Sure.
And is that the kind of stuff that makes you want to stick around in WWE and just make sure you're here for the foreseeable, and you kind of see there's a pipeline for you and some growth and trajectory?
That was such a polite way of saying, have you re-signed yet? Pretty much.
So what I'll say, yes, I have.
Yes! Yes!
Set to stay.
Is that an exclusive for us?
That's exclusive.
Okay,
yeah.
lovely.
So that was with an interview he did with the Gorilla Position. I highly recommend you guys go check it out. They did a fantastic job talking to Gable, not only about his contract, but also about how this heel Chad Gable character came together. And Gable offers some really insightful, insight into that. So go check it out. Link for that is in the description of this video. But let's talk about the news. Chad Gable confirmed that he is indeed staying with WWE, something that at this point was pretty much expected. Fightful had reported multiple times over that Gable had an offer on the table, that he was likely going to re-sign, that people apparently in both companies said that they expect him to stick around with WWE. Wrestling Observer even said that as well. So we've been hearing rumblings that, it's a foregone conclusion that Gable is sticking around. This confirming it, I kind of cements that and puts to rest the idea of him going elsewhere, whether it's TNA, AEW, or what have you. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. We said this for a long time. Right now, Chad Gable is having the run of his career in WWE. This persona, Shoosh, his feud with Otis, Sami Zayn, and the interconnectivity of this storyline makes it must see. It's one of the best things that WWE is producing on television right now. And the central piece to all of this is the performance of Chad Gable, someone who was written off by Vince McMahon as Shorty G, someone who was for a long time understood to be one of the best technical wrestlers in the entire company, but he was never given the chance to do that. Until Triple H came in, Gable was seen as a joke by many people in management. Gable was seen as a joke by Vince McMahon, and you can tell by the way he was portrayed on television. And Triple H, to his credit, has always done a fantastic job of highlighting Chad Gable. Go back to the American Alpha days. He made Gable basically the star of that show. We all knew Jason Jordan had all the God-given athletic ability and honestly the look of a more mainstream WWE athlete. But Gable was the guy cutting promos. Gable was the guy with the charisma. Gable was the guy taking the bumps in the ring, making it work. And without him, I don't think American Alpha is as successful as they would go on to be. And without him, I don't think this story with Otis and the little bit of a resurgence, honestly, we've seen with Otis happens. He has fit into this perfectly. Therefore, combine that with the fact that I'm sure WWE paid him a whole bunch of money to stick around, because I think there is a big future for Gable in WWE. And, I have my own opinions about what the ceiling is. Will he ever be the world champion? That is TBD at this point. I'm not sure if that is necessarily in the cards, but anything can happen in wrestling. Things change all the time. Hell, CM Punk, 3 months after being released from AEW, showed up in WWE, made his return. And then in the biggest twists of fate and irony, tore his other tricep in his first match back. So anything can happen in wrestling. Nothing is uncertain. And look, one thing that is, Gable sticking around in WWE. And I'm sure fans are excited. Hopefully, by the time you're watching this, it is after Clash at the Castle, and Gable is indeed the new Intercontinental Champion. But if he's not, some people are going to be scratching their heads, I can tell you that. But we'll see what happens there. Shout out to Chad Gable for probably getting the bag. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section, though. As we move on to our next topic, let's talk about AEW. Specifically, let's talk about a former AEW World Champion who looks to be making his return fairly soon. I'm talking, of course, about the one, the only Hangman Adam Page, who has not been in action for a while. Hangman Adam Page has been off TV. We haven't seen him since AEW Revolution, basically, ever since the Young Bucks basically suspended him for his actions attacking referees in storyline. But we are now learning, courtesy of FightfulSelect.com, who have done some wonderful reporting on this, that Page could be set for a return pretty soon. Here is the excerpt from Fightful Select's report. It says, quote, "After what will end up being a nearly 4 months out of action, we're told that Hangman Page is poised for a return. We don't have a date nailed down, but it's expected to, I'm sure that says to be, within the next month, likely by early June." That is according to FightfulSelect.com. Go read the full report. They have a lot of cool stuff and information about his contract, what it could mean for that. So go check that out. But news of this story is Page looks like he's coming back, and he's coming back soon. And it could not come at a better time. During this stint, AEW has missed having their big stars. Think about it like this. For the past few months, we were without, or AEW, was without MJF, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, Kenny Omega, Jamie Hayter, Hangman Adam Page. That's just naming 5 right off the bat. And those are 5 talent that when they're not on your TV show, regardless of how great everyone else is, regardless of how fantastic the stories may be, you're not going to get the same amount of eyeballs on your product than you otherwise would. Hangman Adam Page, Kenny Omega, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter are people that the fans care about on a whole nother level. These are people who are established acts on American television, who are established draws on American television. So when you're missing them and, you are trying and struggling, quite frankly, AEW is to, get consistently great ratings every week, like, you're going to need him back at some point. It's going to be a good thing when he does come back. So it's great to hear that. He's obviously coming back in the middle of Swerve Strickland's title reign. As of this recording, we are just about, 2 weeks away from Forbidden Door, where Strickland is set to face Will Ospreay for the AEW World Championship. With Hangman looking like he could return, I think it is all but certain that we will see Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland lock up in the ring fairly soon. And I like what they're doing here with kind of planting the seeds for it. Because if you go back and watch Dynamite earlier this week, you will have seen that the Young Bucks and the Elite came out, confronted Swerve, and same show, it was announced that Blood and Guts is happening, and it looks like we're going to get 5-on-5, the Elite versus Team AEW. And if you're going to do that, the Elite need a 5th person. It looks like Swerve is going to be on Team AEW. Add Hangman in there. Let this rivalry go to a whole nother level in Blood and Guts. And I think, for me, personally, regardless of whether Swerve wins or loses the AEW World Championship match at Forbidden Door, the match that everyone wants to see at Wembley at this point, I think, is Hangman Page, Swerve Strickland. That is a match in front of whatever it's going to be, 40, 50,000 people at Wembley Stadium, is going to absolutely blow the roof off that place. These two have next level chemistry. It is not hyperbolic to say that they have the level of chemistry with each other that I believe Shawn and Brett have. No, that's not me saying that Hangman Page and Swerve are just as good as Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. They are great wrestlers, and I think will be all-timers when it's all said and done. But the chemistry they have and the ability they have to at any point lock it up and put on a classic is really, quite frankly, like shocking when you think about, they haven't locked up that many times in AEW. So when you factor all that in, I think this has the potential for awesome storytelling. It's also just great to see Hangman back. I think that when he does eventually turn babyface, there is no one who can endear fans to in the way that Hangman can in pro wrestling. And I don't mean that, like, of course, Cody's going to have thousands of people cheering him on and that kind of stuff. But for the people who watched the weekly show and who followed Hangman's arc leading up to the world title, it was so special, and that story was so well told. Like, it is genuinely one of the best told stories in all of wrestling for the people who actually watched it and didn't just complain about it on Twitter or whatever. And when they do get around to retelling that story, or get around to, including that story and that lore in Hangman's persona once more, I think you're going to see a bigger, badder, more over Hangman than he's ever been. Although I love the heel persona that he portrayed before his recent hiatus from the company. But we'll see what happens with Hangman Page. We'll see what happens with Chad Gable moving forward. Two awesome athletes, two awesome wrestlers, two of the best there are out there today, just like you guys. So be sure to let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. Also, be sure to smash that like button like there's no tomorrow. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. Until next time, I'm Omer Q for Real Take Wrestling. Be happy, be healthy, and as always, keep it real.